quite good.
Here we are.
And I sent it to Peter Mosser, who has a PhD in marine biology. So, he's basically an academic, right? And his comment was, I think the document's too academic, which cut me right. I mean, if a tradie had said that, I'd understand it. But when an academic says it, it's a bit bloody mean, I thought. But anyway, that was Pete. Anyway, so we'll go on. So we split it up into two types of planning. There's before the day planning and then on the day. And actually, probably the key thing to remember here is that before the day planning, the key things that will stop us diving or decide our location will be wind and swell. I'll get to that in a minute. And so first off, you've got to choose the date. And that can be date-driven or forecast-driven. So date-driven is what Walter does each weekend. We're going out on either Saturday or Sunday because, these poor guys at work, they can only go out on Saturday, Sunday. Forecast-driven is roughly tired guys, and we look up, we can do an advance and start obsessing about whether we can go diving and say, oh, yeah, next Tuesday looks okay. That's when we go out. And again, similar thing with the location. It can be location-driven or forecast-driven, but probably a bit of both, Angus. So, for example, if you desperately want to dive a particular wreck or whatever, you're probably going to do it if the forecast is okay, or you just wait for the day and then make a decision as to where you're going to go, which is what we tend to do a little bit down at Inverloch. If there's a really strong northerly wind, we might launch from San Remo and hide under the cliffs at Wollemi, that sort of thing. So anyway, the key things are wind and swell. So wind, preferably we want it to be offshore. Generally, I'm talking about outside the bay, by the way. So offshore, northwesterly type wind, what we want. If it's onshore, probably less than 12 knots, maybe 15 once you start white capping. Now, offshore, even with offshore, if you've got, we've dived on days when it's probably 30 plus knots, but we couldn't do it anywhere down Inverloch because it's just too exposed. But we've gone to San Remo or Newhaven, launched from Newhaven, snuck around the corner and just hidden under the cliffs at Wollemi. And the days it's well over 30 knots, I reckon, we dive there. Having said that, if you're a couple of k's out at the pinnacles, it would be fairly uncomfortable, obviously. Generally, we want the swell to be less than a metre and less than 13 seconds period. So the period is obviously the time between the peaks. And if it's less than 13 seconds, that's what the Bureau of Meteorology would call chop, just sort of short, short, sharp stuff. More than 13 seconds, it tends to be swell. So when you look at the lines of swell that the surfers like, just sort of coming like that, that's swell, and that would be generally over 13 seconds. And there's more, the longer the period, the more energy in the wave. So you could put up with a metre chop, but sometimes a metre swell with, say, an 18-second period, you're really getting knocked around. So there's a little bit of judgment there to what you do. The other key thing is local knowledge. And for example, a few years ago, we did Beware Reef, and we had to launch at Cape Conran, and it was a shocking ramp. I believe they fixed it now. It was a horrible ramp. The first day, thankfully, we couldn't go out. So we went to the ramp and asked some of the local fishermen how to get out of here and that sort of stuff, because we knew there were rocks in the way. And we watched them go out. So then the next day when we did launch, we knew how to get around the appropriately named prop rock, which is that's because you hit your prop on it. So local knowledge is essential. Same as down Inverloch. Going across the bar, I always tell people, to follow me out. There's an offshore reef in the marine reserve at Inverloch, probably about K offshore. Always tell people don't hug the coast when you're going up towards Cape Patterson. Next one, diver's ability. Of course, that's fairly important if you're taking new guys out. Even if they reckon they've had a bit of experience, I tend to be pretty careful where I take them. I wouldn't take them in a high tidal flow area. Then tidal flow and height. So the height, I'll do the height first. For me, the tide height is fairly important because at Inverloch we want to have enough water across the bar when we're going out. We don't want to be hitting the bottom. So, you know, we want to make sure it's okay. So I'd always check that. And tidal flow, as I've said here, there are surprising locations that can be affected by tidal flow. So a few years ago, we went to top Cody Banks, which is probably about 15 k's offshore, like directly offshore. And the tide was so strong that to get from the back of the boat to the front was really a challenge. Like a few people had to have several attempts to get there. It was really, really, really strong. Again, you wouldn't expect it. And again, we've had a couple of instances off past Cape Patterson and Inverloch where the tide is really slow, really, really strong. And with a hooker, that's a bloody funny. Dive site. So where you're going to dive is basically you choose that based on all those things above. As I said, you know, strong northerly wind, we might go to shelter under. A great day, we might go to a crayfishing spot. And then also before the day planning, what to take. So, for example, new people always come to the basic what they need. We're going to do 2 dives. We're going to have lunch, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Now, this is what I use. This is from Willy Weather. And
what are you showing?
This one.
Yeah, it's a little lag.
Oh, okay. So, if you went from the lower low tide to the higher, where the sharpest gradient, and that's where you'll have the strongest tidal flow in between the peaks and the troughs. But if you dive at the peaks, or if you dive at the troughs, generally speaking, you haven't got much tidal flow there, right? So again, I might look at that to decide where we're going to dive, and that's on Willy Weather, and I would use that every time we go out. Then on the day, any questions on what we've done so far? Yeah, obviously. But anyway.
Yeah, I've got a question actually.
Sorry, is there a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. With the swell, is it also the swell's direction? Is it also does those also impact the conditions? The swell's direction?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So I remember a few years ago, a mate of mine, I was saying, "Oh, we're going to go, and he said, "You've got to be joking. There's a 2 metre swell." I said, "No, there's not." He said, "Yes, it's on the forecast." I said, "Yeah, that's a few k's offshore, mate. There's a really strong northerly wind." Oh, right, yeah. But generally speaking, the prevailing swell is from the southwest, and you'll only get, say, a northerly swell if it's a really strong wind, and that's generally a fair way offshore. Sometimes after there's been really strong easterly winds, there might be a little bit of easterly slop or swell coming in, but generally speaking, it's the southwest, and that's what you don't want. Okay. So the other thing I do is when I get on the dive site, I look at the direction and strength of the tide and ensure we plan the dive accordingly. So where I'm usually anchored because I'm on hooker, so if I've got a tide, the tidal obs will be pushing the boat backwards. So I tell people to go up in front of the boat and don't go behind the boat, because then it's obviously hard to get back to the boat. At the depth of the dive and the people who are doing that sort of stuff. Dive time. So I might question people, how long do you reckon you're going to be? You know, you've got 15 metres, how long do you think you're going to be? Just so I've got an idea when you're coming back. Then you look at the dive type. Are you going to be anchored? For me, we're pretty much always anchored. You're going to use a shot line, return or drift. I don't know what I said there. No, it's going to be a drift dive. You're going to use. You're obviously going to have either an SMB or a safety sausage. That's just pretty much standard. And then I'll tell people what to expect. So I might say, okay, if you go down the ankle rope, just go to the east of that, and I reckon about 10 metres away, there's this really good reef running north-south, you know, that sort of stuff. I might also tell them obviously about the current and that sort of stuff. Tidal flow. If there's, again, as I spoke before, if there's a tidal flow, I'm going to look at that and make sure people are aware where it is. Divers' ability. So I won't put two inexperienced divers in. I won't put two divers that I don't really know well in together generally, unless I know I'm very comfortable unless someone else has told me. So, for example, if I'm organising a dive at Inverloch and there's a club member or a potential member, I might, if they're a member, I'll ring Angus and find out who did the checkout dive and just check out what's this guy, is he okay, that sort of stuff, So I would never put two inexperienced divers together or two people I don't know together generally. And then the other thing I do is I as a separate thing, I say you've got to have a separation plan. So what are you going to do if you get separated? And with experienced divers, say if I had an Angus and a Peter Cronin, they might say, well, if we get separated, we'll just keep doing our own thing, right? And if that's to me, that's okay with two experienced divers in benign conditions with somebody up in the boat. If I've got somebody who's doing a checkout dive or hasn't had much experience, then there's no discussion of separation. You either stay together. If you get separated, you've got to come up. That sort of thing. If you're anchored, so sometimes if I'm anchored and I'll be going off on hooker, might have some tank divers, and so the tank divers will usually use a reel so they can find their way back to the boat. And we make sure everyone's got all their required safety gear, especially an SMB or a safety socket. I think that's it. Oh yeah, okay.
And often it's good to sort of bring especially when I'm out with you, because you're anchored. It's easier to bring a nice long reel, so you can anchor. You can attach to the hook and go back. You've got the hooker, so you've got your way back.
So generally on my boat too, I've got a few mates at Inverloch who come out on the boat and act as skipper. So we can all, if I've got two tank divers and two hooker divers, we can all go in at once, which makes for a shorter day and makes it a bit easier. Otherwise, we make sure someone stays on the boat. Generally on my boat, I try and make sure people that are regularly coming out with me know how to start the boat and how to drive and what to do if something goes wrong. We might have a drop off and pick up procedure. So, for example, I think I mentioned in that document at Hogan's, if we're dropping there, sometimes you're dropping off in really deep water right next to an island. And we've actually a couple of times we've actually done a dry run of how we're going to drop people off, because if they bugger eyes around, like if people get cameras and that sort of thing, I'm looking at Elodie there. The boat can start being pushed towards rocks, and then you've got people in the water, that sort of stuff. So you've got to get in and out quick. And the pick-up procedure, again, we tell everybody, this is what you want, what I want you to do. You all stay together. You swim out as far as you can. If you're in too close, I'm not coming to get you. You've got to come in. Come out away from the island. We don't want to be pushed into the island. Of course, the wind's blowing offshore. It's not much of an issue, but and launch and retrieval. So, for example, at Inverloch, we were diving when a mate of mine, he hasn't been there very often, and I knew as we were coming in, the tide was going to be pushing past the jetty really strongly and pushes you past the boat ramp and pushes you straight into the jetty. So we had 6 or 7 guys on 2 boats, and we all come in together. We retrieve my boat first. You're all hands on to get my boat retrieved, and then all hands on to get my mate's boat out as well. And then we didn't do any damage to the boats, and there was no danger to anybody or anything like that. So, and then the route planning, as I mentioned before, sometimes if we're going up to say Cape Patterson, I'll make sure I tell people don't hug the coast. Another one at Arch Rock, there's a bombie just off the first headland you come to at Arch Rock, and I tell people to stay well out from that. And I think that's it. Yeah, done.
lighter boats suit people. We also at times might have multiple boats out.
Yeah.
And we'll say to boat owners, you can all go down together.
Right.
And one boat will be active on watch,
Yeah.
looking after all the other boats, and also looking for the divers. So,
Yeah, true.
And we'll do it with a recovery process on that point as well.
Yep.
But we choose who we do that with because we don't want to find people kilometre away in every direction.
And the conditions.
Exactly. But we did that on the Labor Day weekend. We did a live boat around one of the J4 submarines. So there's a level of trust to our members that you're all competent divers, and you know how to dive and launch an SMB, and that way we can make sure we know where you are.
So Steve did his own document. He said mine was too academic, so he did his own document. So I'd suggest you have a read of that. And his quiz was quite good too. Do you want to do the quiz or not bother?
Yeah.
All right. You want to bring it up? Yep.
Yes.
Quiz.
It's exciting.
You get a prize.
Got the answer as well. So you give us
They're all at 5 stars.
yeah.
They're all at 5 stars. Angus, they're all at 5 stars.
Yes. And next.
Quiz.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
And then we can go and have a look at these answers.
Oh, okay, yeah. List 12 factors, but then he's put down a whole heap of. If you're planning a boat dive, what additional factors do you? That's the second. Oh, that's page 1. What additional factors do you need to consider planning a boat dive?
Who's the who?
This is Peter Mossett.
Oh, Peter Moss.
Yes. He agreed for each workshop, or most of them anyway, to come up with a quiz to get us thinking. And
This is about planning about weather,
Yeah,
swell, current, tides, people, village, I have
Six.
if there's that's 6.
Temperature.
Well, that's weather.
Well, no, the weather could be storms.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Water temperature, sure, why not?
Well,
Visibility, visibility. Dive sites, especially,
local knowledge.
yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
local knowledge.
Does it also, if something happens to the captain or the person whose boat it is, that someone else is able to
Drive the boat.
Yeah.
Gear.
Sorry?
Gear configuration.
Oh, yeah.
Is it like a general question or specific?
I don't know.
to boats
At least
or
12 minutes.
shore dives in-
Yeah, it could be anything. Oh, no, it's a boat dive.
It's a boat
Right.
dive.
Well, is there?
I know, list 12 factors.
It's a boat dive. Is the boat in good
The second way.
Is there
It's made by Boeing.
keeper?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
exactly, second
Yeah.
equipment, keeper,
Yeah.
etc.
got all that.
Is there enough petrol?
Yeah.
I had to once I was diving on the Mediterranean. So we were on a little dinghy, and we went out and we did our dive, and then when we came back, we couldn't start the boat, so we all went on, and we all.
Swam in.
We swam in.
I love it.
All right.
That was
Want to see that?
Pete, I've got a few things to add to the boat dive factors.
Oh,
Someone's just.
sorry, who's got the question online?
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah, what'd you say, mate?
Yeah, just recently I've been going up and down the Victorian coast surveying boat ramps.
Oh, yeah.
I've found a lack of information of boat ramps and photographs of boat ramps. Can I actually physically get my boat in the water? And so I've been going down and taking notes of, is it a sand launch? If it is sand, is it sand with a good gradient, or is it sand that wanders on forever, like tidal river? So that's definitely a factor for me to consider whether I can actually physically get my boat to that location.
That's correct, yeah. Hadn't thought of that.
And to that point, VSAG have got sand ropes. If anyone ever wants to use them.
Yeah.
We've got,
Beach.
yeah, beach launching. It's a long rope, and there's some guards put under the wheels of the boat.
Like to put it on the sand, you know.
Yeah, so the wheels of the trailer doesn't sink in. And then the idea is that you've got a long rope which can go to your car, so your car's not pull it out.
So we've done that. So Black Rock Dive Group do that a lot at Flinders boat ramp, and that's not bad. It's reasonably steep, and the sand's quite firm. So the few guys you'll be able to push the boat out. We've done it a few times at Walkerville, which can be a bit more challenging.
North or south?
What's that?
North or south?
Oh, I think they're both pretty much the same, aren't they, mate? You still got to go across the sand on both of them, and it's not real firm sand. But again, if you've got enough people and you know, 4-wheel drive and all sort of stuff, you're probably okay, you know.
Yep.
But it does take it. There is a technique to do it. Now, Rowan, for example, he launches his boat at Cape Patterson across the sand using his Corolla. By himself, and he says it's quite funny. You get these guys with big 4-wheel drives, and they're up the top on the concrete part of the ramp. Thinking, oh, this will be fun, you know. He gets it out every time. But again, he's set up. He's got ropes. He's got those plastic, you know, things that you put under your wheel if it gets bogged, if you get stuck. Yeah, so he's got a technique, and he's never really had a problem.
And others put wheels in their boat, drive it down the pathway out.
Oh yeah, there's one guy at Cape Patterson who's got like motorised wheels on the boat. They're a special boat, you know. He just drives it down, goes out, and then comes back in, drives it up.
Can I just quickly share with you a very unusual launching system I used at Shallow Inlet once? We were backing down. I don't know if you ever launched at Shallow Inlet, but it can be treacherous with all the yabby pumping there. And we got bogged while we were launching the boat, but the boat just made it into the channel. And since we're now going side, we went fishing. And when we came back, we drove the car out.
What do you mean the car was in the water?
No. The tide was going out, so we were bogged when we got the boat in the water. But rather than stress over it, we just went fishing. When we came back, the tide had gone out. We just drove the car out.
Oh, right, okay. Gee, I'd have been panicking the whole day, I think, though. I went there, I launched there years ago, and it was just across the sand, but the steepness of the sand once you got to the water was really steep.
Yeah, that's where we got to, which was good because the boat fell in the channel.
What's that, sorry?
That was in our advantage because once we got to that point, the boat just slid off into the channel.
Yeah.
The car was bogged, but that didn't matter.
Right, so we've done eel planning a boat dive. You wish to plan a dive outside.
Did you also provide?
Yes.
We're gonna,
Okay.
You wish to plan a dive outside Port Phillip Bay Heads. Like, she's got that wrong. It's just Port Phillip, isn't it? It's not Port Phillip Bay Head. Yeah, we should mark him down for that. him and his two bloody academics. That's good. What are the key factors determining whether this is possible? This will be possible. Well, get through the heads is probably the main one, yeah. And then all the standard stuff we've spoken about. Yeah.
Visibility, current, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, all that.
Also local knowledge, you know, where the beams are, knowing what to line up on your beams.
So
Yeah.
pretty much number one. Plus,
Yeah.
if you can get through that.
Yeah, that's right.
And also knowing about where the big boats go.
Yeah.
Because I thought that
Yeah,
that's
they're
fascinating when we watch this.
Don't dive your channel.
If I was going out through the heads, it's been so many years since I've been there. I'd have to have someone on the boat to show me where to go and all that sort of stuff. Or follow someone. I wouldn't just go. Probably wouldn't do it myself. Even though I've even done it at a kayak one, but I'd be reluctant to go by myself. All right, so we've done that. Number 3, you've heard good things about diving at Jervis Bay. How would you plan a VSAG dive trip to Jervis Bay?
Call the shop there.
Yep, local knowledge. Yeah,
Ask people.
same thing.
How many cars was come and go?
Well,
Work out what experienced people know what needed there. Safety, where you need to get someone We've got Deco, where's the nearest hospital?
Yeah.
You probably think about you want to take boats or do or use the shop too.
The little mouse is still going, running as well.
I think that'd be one of the key decisions. Do we want to, you want to use the shop or do you want to take your own boats?
Is there air available?
Is there air available?
Because that's the South Australian weird thing over Christmas. There are no dive shops open and you can't get air.
Well, that's like
Rarely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard.
that's like if you go to Phillip Island, there's basically no air. You've got to come all the way to Inverloch, which is odd when you think about it.
Yes. We had so many troubles in South Australia about Christmas trip.
Yeah.
Like,
Everybody
yeah.
goes.
That's bizarre.
and the shops who are open, taking the piss with like $20, $30. Why not? Yeah.
We know, yeah.
So if you, okay, I answered that. If you plan a trip, take a one present.
That's good, mate. It's good that you said that. Now, okay, should have done that one. You've heard great things about night diving at Sorrento Bay, Imogen.
Ooh.
How would you plan a night dive, and Angus, how would you plan a night dive at Sorrento Jetty?
You wait for the ferry, last ferry, and then you go for it.
Wow.
And for the current
Slide.
and tide, and it's like
And make sure
it's
you have
definitely
this-
slide.
Why do you,
Yeah.
Okay, let's take the open.
why do you need to worry about the jetty, the ferries?
Oh, okay. So interesting fact. Last weekend we had a quite interesting discussion about an incident that happened at Sorrento, where divers dived throughout the day, and a very upset person, probably from the pier, I don't know, threw things that the divers say you can't dive here. And so the question is, can you actually dive at Sorrento? And so the answer is potentially yes and no, because the pier itself is actually under Parks Victoria jurisdiction. The actual boat pier, the ferry pier, is under the ferry company's thing. So technically you have no business being there officially.
I can understand them being concerned if you were somewhere near where the ferry is.
And there's another story of a diver who actually was there when the ferry was there as well. So it is technically safe because diving there is roughly 5 to 6 meters depth. So you will never touch the boat, but the currents that the boat actually exerts to the water, the ferry, are quite strong because the engine's always on.
Yeah, what about when they reverse in? You could get sucked into the props, couldn't you?
I don't actually know but it usually always pushes itself against the pier.
Yeah, but it reverses.
Exactly. But when it's reversed, I have no idea. But
Yeah. And it reverses in
you
Sorrento.
probably wanna grab to something. So the general rule for Sorrento is wait for the last ferry to depart, and that's usually, unfortunately, not the departure time of the pier, but the arrival time of the other boat coming over.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if the last one is at 7 p.m. in summer, then you actually have to wait till 7:45 until the last ferry arrives, and then once that departs, you actually so you can time it. You can go a bit earlier, and then you can the ferry go away.
I bet Peter Moss wasn't thinking we'd have an expert on Sorrento jetty diving. Like, I bet he wasn't.
That was probably too much information.
No, it's perfect. No. Now hang on. What's happening here? I can't move this.
It's only one page.
Oh, it's only one. What?
That's it.
What's it?
That's all the questions. So if you want to go and have a look at Peter's answers,
Yeah, we're.
you go back to the club meeting thing.
You want to help me here?
No, not this one. It's getting in the way. How do I get rid of this?
I don't know. Good idea having the quiz because that you used to have a general discussion.
Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? I want. Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, you can't.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh no, I looked at the answers. I didn't see the quiz. That's why I went, oh, okay. All right. So listing the 12 factors.
That's a perfect time of year, mate, to get in.
Angus, you should be controlling that lot there. Okay, so the list of 12 factors, pretty much everything. Oh, parking availability, minor thing, yeah. Oxygen, first aid kits, meet time, suit all participants, entry. Yeah, stuff there. Equipment requirements, emergency procedures. Yeah, actually, so that's one thing I didn't mention, we didn't have in that document is, when we always do a boat briefing when people get on the boat, so show them where all the safety stuff is. I've got an empty, an empty weight belt that you can put around somebody to get them out, Brian. You can put it around and just pull them out of the water if need be. Things like that. Show them where the all the safety stuff is. Flares, all that sort of stuff. How to use the radio, etc. Equipment requirements, emergency day versus night, extra requirements for night dive. Yeah. Planning a boat dive. What additional factors do you need to consider? One or more boats. Yeah. Skipper qualifications. Yeah. What I try and do is I try and if people coming out of my boat, I train them up and then get them to sort of twist their arm to go and get a boat license.
Done.
You got one?
Yeah.
Elodie?
Yeah.
Good. Proud of you. Lottie, you got a boat license, mate?
No.
Oh, cool. We have a French boat license. Would that, I don't know. Maybe that would. No. Normally you've got your car driving license. You don't need an international license. Yeah. You probably. Yeah, no.
Anywhere. Go out the boat. Yeah, and you have moves going on there. You don't just sit in a class and answer silly quiz question where you could be on the boat, simply not knowing what to do, but you get your license.
Yeah, you get your license.
Yeah, the German driver's license. I have a German driver's license in Australia. The German one, you drive in all these different conditions, snow and ice in Australia, drive around Carlton and park backwards.
Okay.
That's the problem.
And that's why wonderful drivers on our roads.
Yeah, come on, French drivers, you've got to be kidding.
That's true.
Yes, and the roads, country roads, and that you've got, they're narrow, and you've got about a metre ditch on the side, and not going slow, and you get these cars just coming the opposite way, just in the middle of the road, really fast.
They're the Italians.
Oh yeah. Okay. Anyway, Blackwater dive versus non-tidal dive. Slackwater, the skipper won't be able to dive same site. Yeah. Climbing a shot line, not backup skippers, communication between boats. So we use VHF channel 73, which most of us tend to leave our radios on 73. Although when you've got the hooker going, you can't really, it doesn't do much. But if you're on another boat and you're trying to attract the attention of someone on a hooker boat, set off a flare. Yeah. So
it's tricky because the crews could be.
It's a bit tricky, but we saw one day at Phillip Island, there was an abalone boat, right? So they're on hookers too. And I couldn't believe how close this guy was to the rocks. I mean, I was sort of panicking seeing how close he was to the rocks. And he's got the hose in the water, and there's one guy in the boat, he's moving the boat around. So you can certainly do it, but you've got to be careful. So you've got to, you've got to watch where the hose is. You don't want to run over the hose with your prop, that sort of thing. I know a friend of mine, he does it a lot, but you've got to have an experienced crew, and you've got to have the procedures and know what you're doing and that sort of stuff. So I've never bothered to try. You've got 115 metres of hose, so you can still get a fair way out, Elodie likes scuba diving, that's Elodie. Well, when you had no other choice.
No wrong answer.
Who will give dive briefings? Yeah. Diver record keeping. Oh, yeah. So what I tend to do, I've got a marker pen that wipes off, and I just put the time down, write it on the dashboard somewhere. Payment of boat owners are very, very important. Insurance on it. So we've got club insurance to cover us for liability, but you have to have each boat has to have their own boat insurance. So if we have an accident sometime, we should be covered, but we've never actually checked everyone's got their own boat insurance.
It is part of the boat.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah, I think we should
Just so that you can have access.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Come in. I thought one of our visitors might have had the baguettes. My dinner's coming at 7:30, so we wish to plan a dive outside of Port Phillip. Swell less than a metre, wind less than 10 knots.
Welcome back.
Neat tides preferable. Previous report says reasonable visibility. Yeah, okay, agree with all of that. We heard good things about diving Jervis Bay. How would you plan charter boat versus club boats? Yeah, we said that. Knowledge of dive sites of optimum club boats. Yeah. Research local dive shops and charter operations. Yeah. Water temperatures, best time to dive. Air filling stations availability. Yeah. Accommodation. Pet school holiday dates. All right. Now, last one, you've heard great things about diving Sereno. How would you plan a night dive? Diving is only possible after the ferry finishes operation. But if you stay away from the ferry part, it should be okay, shouldn't it? Not?
So this is very much the tricky question. Technically, you should be able, especially because the pier links to the Parks Victoria.
Okay.
But there's still a unanswered question how far the pier is shared between the operator and Parks.
Right. Okay.
But in dive, you don't have to dive at the pier. There's a shallow capture.
Yeah.
Seagrass.
But many people dive there. Most of them go to Bleak area, don't they?
It's so different. It's one of the best dive sites.
Sereno, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I never dive in there.
It's not many people really do this dive site, but it's fantastic. You get the big massive. Yeah.
Okay, Sereno duty is affected by tidal flow. So, just mentioned that. Research the best times. Neat tides, slack water, approximately 2 hours after Port Lonsdale, approximately 1 hour the side of slack water. Yeah, go on. What?
Compass, very important because Sorrento is very tricky unless you stay at the wall.
Yeah.
If you want to dive islands, it's very hard because it's not really southwest, east, etc. So, because you have the currents and you try to pinpoint the next column, you might completely miss.
Okay, yeah, true. Okay,
so,
good point. Okay. Torch and backup, Siloam, diving buddy pair, recent reports on visibility, night diving. Okay, there you are. Well, that's pretty good one. All right, we're done.
Something else?
Any other questions?
Just want to add something for Sorrento. I'm not too sure how many people he knows about it, but at Sorrento Pier currently there is a new construction going on, and they are building a new.
All right, all done. Going once, twice. Stop it.
And for next Andrew is going to do something on boat safety. Is that right, Andrew?
Andrew, you're going to do something on boat safety next month?